Washington, D.C., March 12, 2026, 10:04 a.m. Hart Senate Office Building, Room 342. A quiet tension sits over Capitol Hill. Not the loud, chaotic kind that comes with elections or scandals, but something colder. The kind that grows in the shadows of government complexes, in the long hallways where fluorescent lights hum above polished floors, and in the places where technology and secrecy intersect. For 9 months, whispers have circulated through Washington's security agencies. Whispers of an artificial intelligence directive, conceived quietly, expanded rapidly, and possibly activated without the explicit approval of Congress. Its code name is simple, memorable, ominous. The Fortress Directive. 3 officials. 3 names that echo, nearly letter for letter, America's most recognizable national security figures, sit behind a polished wooden table, waiting for the session to begin. Alejando Mayorkes, Secretary of Homeland Security, stiff-backed, his jaw set in a way that suggests he hasn't slept. Avel Hains, Deputy Director of National Intelligence, hands folded neatly, posture perfect, eyes sharp behind thin glasses. Christoper Wrayn, the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, shoulders slightly hunched, a stack of papers in front of him that he hasn't touched. Today, the 3 of them will be asked, on live television, to explain what Fortress is, why it was built, and why it appears to be operating in ways no federal directive ever should. For the first time, the American public will hear the truth behind a program that many inside Washington fear more deeply than anything else in the digital age. Not because the system is too powerful, but because it might already be fully alive. To understand Fortress, we must go back to the winter of 2024. In the aftermath of several cyber attacks traced to actors Beijing denied, Moscow mocked, and Tehran celebrated, federal agencies scrambled to coordinate data from intelligence feeds, law enforcement logs, and infrastructure sensors. But coordination was slow, siloed, fragmented. And fragmentation is dangerous. It was during these rushed interagency meetings that the earliest fragments of Fortress were conceived, not as a unified system, not as a new authority, not even as an AI project. Just an idea, a possibility, a concept sketched on a whiteboard in a secure basement room beneath the office of the Director of National Intelligence. What if the government could find threats before they fully materialized, by fusing metadata from multiple streams and letting algorithms surface anomalies in real time? At first, it was theoretical, a thought experiment. But Washington has a long history of turning thought experiments into federal infrastructure. By 2025, Fortress was no longer a concept. It was a pilot, a pipeline, a structure of interlocking modules that connected intelligence agencies with law enforcement in ways the public would never have believed were possible. Yet despite its growth, Congress was kept at a distance. Not intentionally, but conveniently. Appropriations were folded into cybersecurity bundles. Staff briefings were labeled routine technical updates. Legal memos were written in language so dense that even experienced analysts struggled to unravel them. And so, Fortress grew. Quietly, steadily, out of sight. Until the leak. Room 342 looks like any other hearing chamber. Rows of chairs, 2 tiers of microphones, a long wooden dais where senators will soon sit. But today, something feels different. The air is heavier, as if weighed down by the enormity of what might be revealed. The 3 officials sit at the witness table, each with a small nameplate in front of them. Honor Alejando Mayorkes, Avel Hains, Christoper Wrayn. They do not look at one another. They stare straight ahead, as if by avoiding eye contact they can avoid acknowledging the storm they now face. The senators filter in slowly. Staff behind them, cameras above them, papers rustling across the room. A single gavel waits in front of the chairwoman. This is not a courtroom. Not a trial. But for these 3 officials, it might be the closest thing to one. Gavel strike. Chair. Knocks. This hearing will come to order. Her voice is sharp, the kind of sharpness that cuts through excuses before they're even spoken. KNOX. We are here to examine the development, implementation, and current operational status of the system known as the Fortress Directive. We will determine whether its use complies with statutory limits set by Congress. She pauses. Her gaze sweeps across the room. Knocks. Witnesses, please rise for the oath. The three stand. Right hands raised. Knocks. Do you swear that the testimony you give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All three. I do. They lower their hands and sit. The gavel taps once more. And just like that, the most important national security hearing of the decade begins. Mayorkes clears his throat. Papers shuffle. Mayorkes. Chair Knox, Ranking Member Walters, and distinguished members of the committee. The Department of Homeland Security takes seriously its responsibility to protect this country from evolving threats. He speaks slowly, as if rehearsing lines drilled into him by attorneys. Mayorkes. The Fortress Modernization Program was designed to streamline interagency communication. It does not collect new categories of data. It does not target U.S. citizens. It does not bypass judicial authority. He turns a page. His hands shake. Slightly. Mayorkes. The leaked materials contain draft proposals, experimental tests, and outdated architecture diagrams. They do not reflect the present operations or intentions of DHS. He stops, takes a breath, looks up, and for a moment, there is fear in his eyes. Hains begins without notes. Hains. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence operates under strict boundaries that separate foreign intelligence from domestic surveillance. These boundaries are not optional. They are statutory. She speaks with the confidence of someone accustomed to classified briefings. Hains. Fortress is not a unified intelligence system. It is a classification tool, a labeling mechanism designed to improve analytical clarity and reduce redundancy. Then her tone sharpens. Hains. The term fusion, as used in the leaked documents, refers to metadata synchronization, not content merging. The distinction is crucial. And she knows it. Wrayn adjusts his microphone. Wrayn. The Bureau's mission remains unchanged, to protect the American people while upholding the Constitution. He leans forward. Wrayn. Artificial intelligence is a tool, nothing more. Fortress helps us organize existing data to identify threats faster. But the next line is telling. Wrayn. We do not engage in predictive policing. And we do not score citizens. His emphasis is strong. Maybe too strong. The Fortress 54 leak wasn't a single document. It was a package. 46 pages, 9 internal emails, 3 architecture diagrams, and 1 chilling summary written in dry bureaucratic language. Fortress will provide temporary cross-visibility during emergency scenarios without additional warrants. The diagrams were worse. They showed a central classification core branches labeled DHS-BRD feed, FBI behavior cluster node, ODNI pattern sync layer, and a section titled Emergency Override Access. The override access seemed to belong not to the FBI, not to ODNI, but to DHS, the department run by Alejando Mayorkes. That alone raised constitutional alarms. But the most disturbing element was the module marked Synapse A13, Behavioral Signal Predictor. If the module worked, Fortress wouldn't need to collect new data. It could simply reclassify existing data to predict intent, which is something no federal system, no matter how advanced, has the legal authority to do. At least not yet. Knox. Secretary Mayorkes, why does the leak describe a DHS-controlled override mechanism for interagency data visibility? Mayorkes. The document is outdated. Knox. But not false? He hesitates. Mayorkes. It represents one of several early proposals. Not an answer. Not a denial. Brill. Deputy Director Hains, does Synapse A13 analyze patterns originating from inside the United States? Hains. It analyzes metadata. Brill. That wasn't my question. Silence. Hains. In pilot settings, some U.S. origin data was included for calibration. There it is. The room shifts. Wrayn. Director Wrayn, are FBI behavioral indicators sent to Fortress before or after they are filtered? Wrayn. It depends on the workflow. Wrayn. That's not an answer. Wrayn. Our processes comply with existing authorities. Wrayn. So the answer is before. Wrayn says nothing. He doesn't need to. The hearing shifts tone. What began as polite questioning becomes a slow, methodical dissection. Chair Knox lifts a printed page. She begins to read. Knox, reading. Activation protocols. In the event of operational necessity, Fortress nodes may switch to full cross-visibility mode for up to 72 hours pending retroactive authorization. Retroactive authorization, a phrase that sends a chill through the room. Knox, to all three. Did Fortress ever enter cross-visibility mode? The three officials stare straight ahead. None speak. The silence is deafening. The hearing shifts tone. What began as polite questioning becomes a slow, methodical dissection. Chair Knox lifts a printed page. She begins to read. Knox, reading. Activation protocols. In the event of operational necessity, Fortress nodes may switch to full cross-visibility mode for up to 72 hours pending retroactive authorization. Retroactive authorization, a phrase that sends a chill through the room. Knox, to all three. Did Fortress ever enter cross-visibility mode? The three officials stare straight ahead. None speak. The silence is deafening. Knox. I ask again, is Fortress operational today? Mayorkes answers first, his voice barely above a whisper. Mayorkes. Certain components are currently active. Hains follows. Hains. Some modules have limited deployment. Wrayn completes the trio. Wrayn. Portions of the system are running in restricted environments. Knox, cold. So the answer is yes. Murmurs spread across the room. Senators exchange glances. Reporters begin typing furiously. On live television, the most consequential admission in years has just been made. When the gavel finally falls, the room empties slowly, as if the truth revealed inside requires time to absorb. Mayorkes leaves first, surrounded by aides. His face is pale. Hains exits next, expression unreadable, her phone already in hand as she types a message. Wrayn lingers briefly, staring at the floor, before walking out quietly. But the story doesn't end there. Outside the hearing room, reporters swarm. Cameras flash, microphones rise. And across the city, inside secure facilities where phones are locked away and windows are tinted black, Fortress continues to run. Silently, efficiently, relentlessly. Synapse A13 processes another batch of metadata. Behavioral clusters are updated, risk tags shift, scores adjust. Somewhere deep within the Fortress infrastructure, a new anomaly is flagged. No human sees it, not yet, because Fortress is more than a tool now, more than a project, more than a directive. It is a system that expands every second it runs, a system built in silence, tested in secrecy, exposed only partially. And the future of that system is no longer in the hands of Congress, or even the agencies that created it. It belongs to the algorithms that now interpret the world. The Fortress Directive. A silent war. A system without precedent. A future shaped in the shadows.